Okay, so movement of water in plants. Okay, so when we talk about movement of water in plants, okay, the main thing, the gist of this lesson is talking about the factors that are helping the transportation of water in plants, up. Okay, because the biggest obstacle in transportation of water in plants is to overcome the gravitational force pulling that pulls down the water from going up. So basically all the factors that we'll be discussing later on, yeah, are factors that help, to overcome the gravitational force, as well as to help to the flow of water, or the movement of water from the soil into the roots of the plants. Okay, so let's not waste any more time. Let's go to the first factor. Okay, so the first factor here that I'll be discussing about is a factor known as the root pressure. Okay, now what is a root pressure? Now, to explain about root pressure, let's look at the structure of the roots. Okay, so plants, they do not just have the normal roots, but they also have tiny roots known as the root hair. Okay, now the presence of this root hair is the one that is causing the root pressure factor. Okay, now due to the small size of the root hair, this is actually increasing the surface area, yeah, of it. Okay, so based on biological concept, okay, when the surface area is high, okay, this will trigger, or this will stimulate, okay, the diffusion of water into the root hair, okay, through osmosis. Okay, now basically root pressure is, the factor, okay, that actually draws the water into the root hair due to it having a large surface area due to it being small. Okay, so this is important because the normal roots, okay, they are quite big to have this kind to produce this kind of, a root pressure to draw water into them. Yeah, so by having smaller version of roots, yeah, called the root hair, so this can actually produce, yeah, a factor known as root pressure, yeah, that draws in water through osmosis into the root hair. Okay, now since the water is being drawn into the root hair cells, okay, so what happened is, so when this first cell is receiving the water, okay, so it will have high content of water, okay, compared to the next cell which has low water content, right? So what happened is water will be moving to the next cell in the same manner, which is through osmosis, okay, and finally reaching the cells, okay, found at the normal root. Okay, so these cells are also having lack of water compared to the cells of the root hair. So again, the same factor draws water to flow, or to move, or to diffuse into the cells, of the normal root, and thus going up, due to the same factor. So this actually helps in moving the water up. So that's the first factor. Okay, let's go to the second factor. Okay, the second factor that helps the transportation of water is also a type of pressure, but this time we are talking about the osmotic pressure. Now, when we are discussing about osmotic pressure, this is a very crucial concept in biology, because most students, they don't really have a strong foundation in terms of what osmotic pressure is, because osmotic pressure is a very popular concept. You will meet this concept a lot, in the future. So you have to have a strong fundamental of what osmotic pressure is. Okay, now, so let's make it simple for you. Okay, so when you talk about osmotic pressure, to avoid confusion, I suggest that you relate the concept of osmotic pressure with the content of
It's
a
supposed to
solution.
be
Like in
solute,
solute, solute here
Solute,
can
not
be to a kind of
Salute. So
aerosol
sorry for the wrong
or
spelling and sorry for
a
the wrong
sugar.
pronunciation.
Okay.
So
Now,
solute here means the
but
solid
we
particles
have
that
high
dissolve in
content of
the
solute in the
solvent to
cell.
produce solution.
Okay.
Okay,
This
so when you
actually
have high
produces
content
something
of
high,
solute, in the cell,
osmotic
you also have high osmotic pressure, or you
okay
can also say the other way
pressure.
around.
So
Okay,
high
high osmotic pressure is
solute
actually
in the
caused by
cell will
high content
produce
of
a high
solute in the cell.
osmotic
Okay,
pressure.
so if
High
you
osmotic
work on
pressure
this
will
concept, you
produce
will not get
high
confused. Okay,
osmotic
later on.
pressure. That's
Okay,
due
all
to
right.
high content of solute in the cell. Okay, now let's uh, take the cells of the root hair again. Okay, now let's put our focus at the cells found at the root. Okay, so now since the water has been drawn into this cell, let's say, okay, so this cell is now having high content of water. So high water content will result in high or low osmotic pressure. Remember, water is not solute, water is opposite of solute. So high water content means low osmotic pressure, meaning that this cell here is having high osmotic pressure. So what will happen is, since this cell is having a higher osmotic pressure, so what happens is water will diffuse from this cell to the upper cell here, yeah, due to the high osmotic pressure of this upper cell. Okay, and the same thing will happen, continue to happen, okay, when water diffuses into this cell, it will reduce its osmotic pressure, isn't it? Okay, thus this next cell would have high osmotic pressure, so water will keep on moving in the same manner or same principle. Okay, osmotic pressure principle. Okay, so I hope this is very clear. Okay, don't get confused about the concept of osmotic pressure. It is all about the concept of solute. High content of solute means high osmotic pressure. Okay, so just work on that. Okay, all right, okay, now settle. Let's go to the third factor. Okay, the third factor that helps the movement of water or the transportation of water in plants, is a factor known as transpirational pull. Okay, and when you talk about transpirational pull, you're actually talking about transpiration. Okay, now in this lesson I will not touch much on about transpiration, because transpiration should have a separate lesson about it, because there are so many stuff, okay, under transpiration itself. Okay, but basically in this lesson what I want you to know is, okay, how transpiration itself, how the process of transpiration itself helps in the transportation of water in the plants, to be precise, in the xylem upwards. Okay, now to explain about that, let's look at the meaning of transpiration again. Okay, so what's the meaning of transpiration? Transpiration is actually the process where plants are losing water in the form of water vapor, okay, through evaporation at the stomata, right, found at the leaves. Okay, so meaning that, okay, if this is a leaf, okay, so what will happen is the cells at the leaf here, whatever cells they are, epidermis cell, spongy cells, whatever, okay, they will actually, experiencing dehydration because they keep losing their water. So when the cells here are being dehydrated, what will happen is it will draw the movement of water to replace the water that is being lost. So this is how transpiration creates a pull that pulls water upwards to the leaf that is losing water. So are you with me? You get this concept? Okay, so transpirational pull is very simple. It is basically, the pull that is being produced, when the cells found at the leaves are losing their water or being dehydrated. So water needs to be replaced here, to avoid the cells from being dehydrated. Okay, so that's it. Transpirational pull, simple. Okay, let's go to the last. Now let's go to the last factor. Okay, so this last factor might be a new factor for you. Okay, it is involving forces. But if you have learned this in physics, I don't think this will be something strange for you. Okay, now the forces involved here, are actually forces involving the water molecules themselves. Okay, so now what are these forces all about? Okay, there are two different types of forces involved here. The first force is known as the adhesion force. Okay, and the second force is known as the cohesion force. Okay, So how to explain adhesion and cohesion, or what is adhesion and cohesion force? Okay, simple. Okay, adhesion force is actually the force, okay, between the water molecules and the wall of the container. Okay, now to explain this, let's take a simple example for this. Okay, so let's say this is a measuring cylinder or any type of container. So when you put water inside a measuring cylinder, you will always see there will form a meniscus like this, right? So this is the meniscus, this is the meniscus. Okay, so what causes the meniscus to appear? So this is all due to the adhesion force, where the water molecules, they are actually tend to attach themselves to the wall of the container. So by having adhesion force, this is actually producing a higher level of water at both of the sides of the wall here. So this can help in moving water upwards of the tube. In this case, the tube is the xylem vessel. Okay, so that's adhesion force. Okay, so to avoid confusion, adhesion here means adhesive. The word adhesive is always related to something like to sticky, right? To stick, something like glue. Okay, so adhesion is the force where the water molecules tend to stick to the wall of the container. So let's move on to the second force, cohesion force. Okay, this cohesion force is actually exists between the molecules among the water molecules themselves. So molecules with molecules. Okay, now to explain this, let's look at another simple example. When you have a water droplet on a floor or on any surface, you will always see that the water droplets will always form a dome shape, isn't it? And they're not like lying flat on the or flat like this on the surface. They will always form a dome shape like pattern. So what causes this dome shape to be produced? So here you have all the water molecules here. So what happens is the water molecules they tend to stick to each other, or they tend to pull each other closely. They tend to cuddle up together. So by cuddling up together, by pulling everyone else close to everyone else, so this will create a force that will form this type of dome shape thing. So if you want to apply this on how this cohesion force is actually helping the transportation of water, is the water molecules will tend to pull everyone together and move upwards together. So by combining the cohesion force with the adhesion force, this will help a lot in the transportation of water upwards the xylem vessel. Okay, so there you have it, 4 different factors that help in transportation of water in plants. So this part of the topic is most likely normally came out in as an essay question. So when you want to answer an essay question about movement of water in plants, make sure that you highlight on these 4 factors that help the movement of water up against the gravitational force. So first factor is root pressure. Second factor is osmotic pressure. Third factor is transpirational pull, and the fourth and the last factor is the 2 types of forces, adhesion and cohesion force. Okay, so that's about it. Thank you very much. See you guys in the next lesson.